This is a description of the Coalition Search and Rescue Task Support Project, which is funded by the DARPA DAML programme, and it's conducted by AII at Edinburgh and IHMC at University of West Florida. So we're initially showing you the CoABS Grid Manager, and you can see that there's a number of services which are running. In particular, there'll be a Genie lookup service and a number of other services running directly on the CoABS grid. We're using Chaos from IHMC, and this provides a directory service, and we're running a domain manager named DM1. We then have two IX process panels running, CoSAR TS for the Coalition Search and Rescue panel and USSAR for the US Search and Rescue panel, and we have two services running for information lookup called Hospitals and Resources. 4 agent guards are running, which help us to maintain policy across the use of these agents. Now we have a Chaos Policy Administration tool which is helping us set up and maintain these policies. So we have one domain which is running, Bini Coalition, and within this there's the 4 agents you saw previously, CoSAR, USSAR, and then the 2 services, Hospitals and Resources. We're interested in limiting the kinds of search and rescue resources which can be chosen depending on the flights that these resources would have to make, the countries that they will overfly. So we're going to establish a new KPAT policy which we're going to call GAO Flight Restriction, and this is going to be a negative authorization policy. We'll choose from one of the available actions available to us and select that. And within this selected action we have an available role of has home country. In this case we're interested in placing the restriction on a country which is GAO. And then we can add that as part of the policy specification, that we have home country GAO. Then this is going to be a second part of this policy, which is the country that we won't permit overflights of GAO search and rescue resources to. So we'll say has rescue destination. In this case the limitation will be on the country Arabello. So basically GAO search and rescue resources cannot overfly Arabello. So you can see that we've got a 2-part policy specification there. And then we commit that policy. And then we want to distribute it. So we'll just show you now the 4 agents once more within the KPAT tool, and we can show you that for the resources agent we have that policy in place. So we're now going to move over to show you the 2 process panels which are available. The Coalition Search and Rescue Coordinator is going to be where most of the action of the demonstration takes place, and then we're going to use a USSAR officer panel to initiate the action, because they would have taken the initial report about the downed airman because it's a US national. So in this case the USSAR officer is told to send any reports of downed airmen up to the Coalition Search and Rescue Coordinator for their activity. So we'll take a look at the actions available to us that the process panel can support, and we see there that there's a way to expand the description of this activity using a particular built-in standard operating procedure, and we get the expansion, which is 5 sub-steps here. We can now take a look at the first part, and we see a way to break that down even further. You can see the indented sub-process, and we're going to look at the first part of that, which is to establish the medical capability. Now in this case we know that we've got a burned airman, so we're going to use burn care as the medical facility capability that we're looking up, and then we're able to indicate that we've done that manually. Then we're going to use a service available to us. This is one of the services which is registered, so we can invoke the hospital service to establish medical establish the hospitals we have that can deal with burn capabilities. We're just showing you here that we know about hospitals and indeed resources as a service. This is in the iSpace tool, which describes services and other agent relationships to this particular panel. So we're going to invoke the hospital service agent, and it's going to now be acting. You can see it there. It's already going off and looking for DAML information from the SONAT database about Arabello and Bini in this case. And it's finding hospitals, and then it's filtering those by the ones that can provide burn care. And we can take a look at that. We can look at the details, look at the kinds of hospitals available, where they are, and so on. Find that some can deal with the burn care, as you can see. Goward L looks like a likely candidate. And we're going to be interested in exactly where that hospital is in relationship to the downed airmen. So we can perhaps best do that by looking at a map of the facility. This will be loaded from the information known to the IX process panel. You can see the pilot down in the sea there, and his condition reported as having burns. And you can also see the Goward L hospital, which, as we've noted before, has burn care facilities available. So we're going to go ahead and select that hospital by binding the variable appropriately. And we can just tick that off as done. And then we're going to look at the next entry, which is to establish the country that that hospital's in. You can imagine this being done more automatically in future. In this case, we're going to indicate that it's Arabello, because that's what was indicated in the information that came back in the lookup. So now that we've got a hospital available, we're interested in selecting the search and rescue resource appropriate to the task. And we have a built-in standard operating procedure to remind us how to do this. And in particular, the first one is to look up the SAR resources available, which is going to invoke a resources agent. This will use a SOAP connection over to a CMU matchmaker, which finds these appropriate search and rescue resources. And we're finding some resources coming back. Now, in fact, only the resources that are allowed for overflights of Arabello are going to come back. So Chaos has already been filtering the number of resources found. In this case, there's 2 that are permitted and seem to be able to do the job, and we're going to choose the US Marine helicopter. That's convenient, it's in the right sort of location, and it also helps us deal with the fact that this is a US airman down. So we're going to indicate that we've selected that resource by... we'll look at the map first just to show you where that US Marine helicopter is. So we're now going to show you that we can bind the variable for the SAR resource selected to the US Marine helicopter, and again we'll indicate we've done that. Again, you can imagine in future much of this could be done in a more automated way. And then we're going to notify the SAR resource itself. This would best be done by talking with the US SAR officer who would control that resource. So it goes back onto the process panel, and when they themselves have notified the helicopter pilot, they would indicate it's done, and you'll see that there's a cascade of done information, done success information flowing back up, turning blue. We've notified the hospital, and we're just going to check what the outstanding issue was that we were asked to just check it as we went along, and yes, the country and SAR resource chosen are allowed together, and that was in fact constrained by the KPAP policy. So that concludes our demonstration. Further information is available at some of the URLs now being shown. Thank you for watching the demonstration of the CoSAR TS project.